And there will be people who say, yikes, I could never do that. And there will be people who say, wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know we were doing that here. Those are the people that you want to keep in mind. Make yourself a list. Hello, welcome to the Chirp YouTube channel. My name is Christy and I am your friendly online speech-language pathologist and specialist in children's communication development, which includes behavior, because behavior is one type of communication. We can learn things by watching people's behavior. And children, even children who are nonverbal, can communicate using different kinds of behavior. So it's important to keep our eye on what they're doing and try to figure out why. And I have lots of videos about that. But today we are going to talk about step 1 in my process for developing programming for neurodivergent children. I did an overall video last week right there that you can find and watch in its entirety. But because there are 11 steps, I was not able to go into a great deal of detail on each of the steps. I pretty much just listed what the steps were and gave a very brief bit about that particular step. So I want to go into each of them in a little more detail in case you are one of those people who is feeling your heart pulled towards children who do not have appropriate supports in your current environment. This may be a church. That is where I am working on developing programming. It may be in some other environment. Perhaps this is in a sports program that you participate in. Perhaps this is an after-school program. I don't know. It could be anything. But all children really do deserve environments that are available to them. They deserve to be able to learn, to be able to keep themselves calm. There are very rare cases where no matter what we do, a child is not going to be able to stay calm and be safe around other people. But in most cases, we can change the surroundings, we can change the level of support to help children to be successful. This does take extra humans, extra adult humans, to make this happen, and it does take changes to our operating procedures, but it is very possible, and I think it's a necessity that wherever we are in our world, we are looking out for those who are vulnerable. And children, especially those whose brains are different, are in that category of being vulnerable. They don't learn or communicate like other people, and therefore we must do a little bit extra to take good care of them. I have been doing this type of thing for about 25 years, and I'll do an upcoming video on my story. You can find out a little bit about it right there when I talk about the curriculum that I developed. But I'll tell you a little bit more in a future video. So subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss that fascinating story of adventure and excitement. In this video, I'm going to talk about step 1 in developing specialized programming, and that is to develop a team of like-minded people. I have almost always been a volunteer in my churches over the last 25 years because I know that churches need volunteers to keep things running. We are supposed to be learning to love. That is our job as communities who follow Jesus. You probably have a community where your purpose is to take care of children and maybe other people. And if we are meant to love people well and to learn to love better, then we need to make sure that our programming reflects how important each individual is. And one of the ways that we start doing this is by raising awareness. We raise awareness of the need, And we chat with people in our surroundings about the fact that we can meet this need. And here's how I think we can do it. Before my husband and I ever came to the church we currently attend, I met with some of the members of staff because this is my career. This is what I do. I work with kids who have different developmental needs, and I help churches to support them. So I'm not going to attend a church where there's no interest in developing this kind of programming. That just wouldn't make sense. So I needed to meet with some of the people who were at boss level and discuss with them, is this important to you as a community? What have you done in the past that has or hasn't worked? What kind of team would you be to work with? And this has never been an easy process with any church I've attended. The first church I attended, this was 20 plus years ago, almost 25. I was fresh out of graduate school with my master's degree in speech-language pathology. And it was kind of an accident. I did not mean to develop a program, but there were children who needed help, and that's what I did. So I helped them, and then I trained other people to help them. And then we had a specialized classroom where we could pull them out because they were not successful and they were very distracting to the other kids and a flight risk. So when children need it, there are different levels of need. We had to adjust to the different levels of need. And that was a very long process, many years of getting to know the staff, getting to know the children, getting to know the families, getting to be trustworthy and trusted by the people who were running other things. And the second church I attended, it took me about 4 years to start an actual classroom because of the same things. Becoming trusted by the staff and the other volunteers, becoming a face that the children knew and the adults, the family members knew, getting to know the routines and the power plays behind the scenes of that particular group of people. And at this church, this is the third church I've done this at, and each church I've been there for a long time. The shortest period of time as an adult that I've been at a church is 7 years. Maybe it was 8, but it was a long time. And I don't plan to attend a church just for a short period of time. I intend to commit because I know that this process, which is what I'm called to do, is a long process. It is a long process to invest in families and in children. And I'm willing to do that if it's the right situation. And my husband and I decided that this was the right situation. But it has always been more difficult than I expected. How do we say this? Churches do not usually invest well in children. Usually the majority of the time and energy and money is spent on the adult experience. And this offends me. I understand that the adults are the ones who make the decision to come to church, but the children are the ones who have to suffer for that decision on their parents' part if the children's programming is not great. And so I want all children's programming to be high quality, to teach in ways where children are able to understand. I want programming to be welcoming for children. And this has not always been the case at every church I've attended. And it has been a process for me of learning to release the things that I cannot change, because I am not the children's pastor. I am not the pastor. In some churches, because I'm a woman, I could never be a pastor or indeed a volunteer leader of any kind. Now, I no longer attend a church that does not believe that men and women are equal in ministry. And I will not attend those kind of churches again. But I have in the past, because that's what was available to me where I lived at the time. And that was very difficult for me. It's difficult to have theological differences with a church where you're going to invest a lot of time and energy and potentially finances in any program. But there is no program that's going to be perfect. And you need to decide what are your non-negotiables. If I'm going to develop programming at this place, in this program that already exists, there's going to be quite a bit of my time and energy and resources tied up in this thing. Is it good enough for me to feel good about investing here? And that is a good question to keep in mind that I did not actually intend to discuss in this video. I meant to discuss chatting with leadership if you can. Sometimes it's impossible for someone outside of a church to contact people inside of a church and say, hey, I don't attend there yet, but I would like to, and I would like to bring with me the skills that could develop into some kind of specialized program for children with different developmental needs. Usually that doesn't work out very well. Usually you need to be part of something and show your commitment before you are trusted enough to offer any sort of feedback about how things might change to help any certain population. So if you believe that this thing that you want to join and that you would like to bring improvements to, if you believe that this is an organization that is worth your investment, then get in there, start investing. And as you are going, focus on the children who need more support. Focus on the children who don't communicate very well, and use some of the strategies that I discuss on this channel to help them communicate better. Focus on the kids whose behavior is challenging. And if this is not your field, you're going to need help because behavior challenges are complex. Most of the time, they are communication, and someone who is not really well educated and very experienced in the area of communication and behavior is not going to easily be able to solve some of these behavior challenges. So if you are not a specialist in this field, if you are not a speech-language pathologist, a special educator, something like that, then don't do this without getting more education yourself. If you're already thrown in there, then there are ways to educate yourself. And if you really feel that this is a calling, then go forth and make sure that you are learning, that you are getting the skills that you need to be able to do your calling with excellence and in safety, because that can be a problem sometimes with challenging behaviors. Focus on these kids and talk to leaders about them. Say, hey, did you notice how Mario is unable to really understand the lesson the way that we're teaching it? Have you noticed how Cadence only repeats exactly what you say to her and can't answer a question? Have you noticed that so-and-so is just running around the edges of the classroom and not interacting with anyone? I think that these are some of our students who really could use a different style of teaching, maybe a classroom that specializes in different learning styles. We can just broach the topic very simply like that. Now, keep in mind, I have been doing this at my current church now for 4.5 years. And we are just getting to the point where our staff and the leaders above me in ministry have agreed that we really need a specialized classroom because we have so many kids who are really struggling. And what a blessing it is that this is exactly what I believe I am there to do. And I'm happy that we agree that the time is right. And that is what I've been aiming for. So hooray! Now, as you raise awareness over the months and years, you will begin to make friends as well, because you will be working with people and you will be able to gauge who are the other people who are really drawn to these kids who are a bit different. I can identify these people, although this is my job, but I can identify the people who think that my special students are amazing and funny and creative and who really have an interest in their differences rather than feeling nervous about those differences. These are different types of people. There are some type of people who really like typical kids, and I like typical kids, but I really come alive when I am working with a super quirky kid or a kid whose behavior I don't really understand, but I really am curious. It's like a mystery for me to figure out what is going to pull this child in, what is going to engage this child, how can I build rapport with this child who is on a different developmental trajectory. I don't know exactly where the skills are yet, but I would like to find out. And there are other people like that. And at the beginning, I'm making friends. I'm telling them my focus. I volunteer in children's ministry, and my focus is really providing support to those kids who need a little bit of extra adult encouragement. And there will be people who say, yikes, I could never do that. And there will be people who say, wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know we were doing that here. Those are the people that you want to keep in mind. Make yourself a list. And then when the time comes you need to open a classroom, you will know those people need to be on your list to approach and say, I was wondering if you'd like to give it a try. Come volunteer with us every other week. It usually works best every other week. We'll talk about scheduling later in this series, but every other week usually works best. Just give it a try. See what you think. You sounded so excited when I mentioned it that I thought maybe it might be your thing. And we're going to be such a tight family in this little team that I wanted to spend some more time with you. I would respond to an invitation like that to get involved in something that I thought was important. And then eventually you're going to have a team of people who are like-minded, who believe this is important, who find these kids fascinating. And because we have this in common, we like each other, and we're going to be able to laugh together. We're going to be able to build bonds with these students together, and it's going to be fun. It's not just going to be a job. Of course, all through this process, you're going to probably be discussing each step with whoever is above you. If you're a volunteer, there's going to be a staff person that you're going to have to liaise with. And that person, in my case, I have to let that person drive this to some degree. I have asked questions regularly. I have expressed concerns, but I believe that in discernment, I have decided that my role during this initial process is to educate where necessary about the needs of these specific children and to advocate for them. For example, there have been situations where there was shaming of some of my children by staff members because of their behavior. That's inappropriate. There should never be shaming of children. We should never say, oh, how could you do that? That's so naughty. We should be trying to get underneath the behavior to figure out what's going on and to help the child manage better. But we should always be welcoming and encouraging. And so I have approached those issues with some fierceness sometimes because I am the advocate for these children. I am their protector in this team, in this community of people who are all there to support kids. But some people just don't understand how different some kids actually are and how different our approach to them needs to be. It is not because a child is poorly parented or a bad child that he doesn't keep his shoes on throughout the whole service. There's a video on that right there. There are so many needs that kids have that people who specialize in typical kids don't understand. And it is my job to educate them about those different needs and to advocate for the children where necessary. As I do that gently as possible, I get a little ferocious when it comes to protecting kids. But as I do that gently, over many years, I come to be trusted, and they have started to ask me questions about other kids that I haven't even met yet. And eventually, the time has come where we are building together a program where I'm recognized as the specialist and where I can support these kids the way that I know they really need to be supported. And I'm super blessed and excited to be part of that. And I'm super blessed and excited that you can work towards that wherever you are, whatever kind of program you are in, you can also work toward that. And as we have these little oases of welcome and understanding and joy in these kids, where we have little places, little islands in this big ocean where we try to understand these kids and we really like them and love them, and their parents don't have to feel ashamed to bring their quirky kid to whatever this program is. This can change the world. It can really be a huge difference for these families. So the point of this video is to encourage you to begin, wherever you are, begin gathering a group of like-minded people. Be an octopus and put your tentacles everywhere. Talk to everyone, because you are not being pushy. You are advocating for children. You're being a blessing, and I appreciate that about you. Thanks for being here with me today. Thanks for taking the time to think about this, and I hope you come back next time when we talk about step number 2. Have a great day. Bye.